I was trained as a preschool child to operate microphones, PA systems, recording equipment. I notice everyone in the family has received some training as well. My name is Donnie Gossett. I am the baby brother of Michael Gossett. And we were the closest of brothers in the last 30 days. Michael and I had a conversation on the phone where we agreed that we were the closest brothers that we had ever encountered. And we stayed, well, I'm not making a joke, I'm serious, that we were, Michael is really the only person in my life who I've been close with my entire life. And our lives were heavily intertwined. I was speaking several times with Shelley earlier and seeking to empathize with Shelley, and I said that it was hard enough for me. I couldn't imagine what it would be like for her since she has shared the same bed with him and slept with him for the last 40 years. But then I remembered I shared a room in the same bed for 18 years. That's got to be worth something. It's not 40. 40 trumps 18, but, you know, it's something. When I was 10 years old, I was beat up by our paper boy, and for the younger people who may not know what a paper boy is, he's the boy who delivers your newspaper every day back in ancient paper-based times. So Michael was hiding in a bush with a scythe, which has a blade that's about that long, waiting for the paper boy to deliver the paper and be greeted by Michael. The paper boy, fortunately and very wisely, sent his sister to deliver the paper that day. Just hearing the different the past stories, I'm reminded of several things. Michael and I, as I was saying, were very close the whole time. When we went into our teen years, Michael took me to my first rock concert, which was actually a pop festival about 2 weeks before Woodstock, so it was back in the hippie days. And we heard Ike and Tina Turner review, because Ike and Tina were still together back then. We heard the Guess Who sing their new song, American Woman. We heard Vanilla Fudge and a whole bunch of rock bands. And the climax, of course, was the Doors, because as Jeannie was mentioning, Michael was a huge Doors fan. So we'd been there all day out in the hot sun, and we decided, actually Michael decided, and I followed, that we should go home, but we would listen to the first song of the next band, who were a brand new band. We'd heard their name, we'd never heard their music. The song was A Whole Lot of Love. The band was Led Zeppelin, who, for those who don't know, they are the second most successful music entity of all time, second only to the Beatles. Yes, we walked out on Led Zeppelin. We then started to form our own rock bands. Our first rock band was called The Vortex, because we thought that was a psychedelic name in 1968. Then we decided, as Jeannie was mentioning, to form a family group of the 5 siblings, and we spent countless hours till we finally came up with the imaginative name, The Gossets. Then Michael went on to the Centurions, and I actually sat in with the Centurions with Michael several times, but I was never actually part of the band. So while he was away, I formed Salvation Air Force, and we have at least 2 of the original founding members here, my cousin Leon Rogers and Ron Stelting, wherever you are. We formed that when we were all still 16 years old. And Michael joined us. He quit the Centurions soon after that and joined us. And so Michael and I did Salvation Air Force from 1972 until 1980, and that was the thrust of what we did. Salvation Air Force was our baby. I'm very impressed. I forgot all about that poster of Salvation Air Force that's here at the front. You got to come and check it out. It's quite something. We did lots of things. We recorded a dozen albums. Michael and I played in 12 different countries together. We played in 16 of the United States and 4 of the Canadian provinces. We then, as kind of an offshoot of Salvation Air Force, as Jeannie was mentioning, we formed our own recording studio, and that became our business for 9 years. So we were business partners. We then went on to, as Jeannie was saying, the MLG band, the Donnie Gossett band, a bunch of different bands. We put together a band for Shelley's 50th with a Scottish theme, so we called it Remember the Tartans. We did just lots and lots of music together. Our last time of creating together was last August of 2018. Michael came out to visit me in Colorado, where I now live, and have an awesome home recording studio. So we wrote and recorded one more song. We were slated for Michael to come back out here in July of 2019 to do more writing and recording, but his doctor wanted to pursue a surgery so Michael could be relieved and basically mark the end of his battle with cancer triumphant. So we postponed it till later in the year, and that obviously will never happen now. We were great partners. We wrote between 100 and 200 songs together and did all kinds of things and projects together, and we shared a great sense of humor together. He was just a great guy. I had several people write me. I've received probably 1,000 messages in the last 11 days since Michael passed. And Alex McDougall, who's a Christian musician who was in Daniel Amos and The Way, and most notably in Salvation Air Force, he wrote to me, quote, "Two guys were never better examples of brothers than you and he." And then Ben Karlstrom, who's also a great musician, who's actually originally a protege of Michael's, he wrote, "Michael was a true friend to all of us, but to no one more than you." So I can't say that giving this tribute is exactly something I want to do, but it's something I realize I have to do. Then after, or at least in the midst of pursuing all the bands, we went on to the other areas of our life and marriage. I was Michael's best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. We went on to children. I was actually the first family member to take a photograph of Victoria as a baby. I named my youngest son, Justin Michael Gossett, after Michael. And then on to grandchildren with the lads and all the other parts of life as they carry on in our careers. For those who don't know, Michael spent much of the last about 15 years or more, Shelley could correct me on this, but working on promotional products, because he started doing that in the 1970s with Salvation Air Force t-shirts, and he went from t-shirts into almost anything you can imagine. I mean, leather jackets, golf clubs, pens, papers, tablets, on and on, anything that could have a company logo, because he became an expert in that. Michael also had a real influence on quite a few different people, and particularly young musicians. Again, I'm Ben Karlstrom, who is, I would think it would be safe to say, he's second in the world, only second to Weird Al Yankovic in doing professional song parodies, although he's much more talented than Weird Al, because all Al does is sing, and not that great. Ben does it all, plays all the instruments, does all the production, does all the vocals, and he does an awesome job. He wrote to me and he said, "Had Michael not asked me to play in his band, I doubt my interest, skill level, and career in music would have been anything like it has been. Michael believed in me and saw me as an asset, something I'll never forget and will always appreciate." Adrian Metcalf, who's playing in the band today, he wrote me and said, "Michael had an impact on me. He was the most encouraging soul and always made an effort to reach out with encouragement and positivity. In a lot of ways, he represented his faith pretty well. He was the first person to hire me, and he never stopped encouraging me every opportunity since then. He was a good man, a great man." And then the Christian musician Don Moen, who we were singing, the worship team was singing a song written by Don, "God Will Make a Way." He's probably one of the best known praise and worship artists in the world. He wrote to me and said, "So sad to hear the news of Michael's passing. It stunned me and made me realize once again how fleeting this life is on earth. I'm honored to have known Michael and call him a friend." I saw Philip Fassbender, who's actually from this church here today, and he wrote me to say that he said, "Your brother is a gem." The Christian musician Pamela Mark Hall, she wrote me and said, "Michael is such a sweet man. He was loved and appreciated by peers, by people he saw that he could help out, and from people he saw he could learn from." And that leads us to the next portion of this presentation. In 1977, Michael and I had just finished our first album, Salvation Air Force, and we signed with Larry Norman and his record label. And Larry recommended the title Strangers in a Strange Land. And Michael and I both agreed it was a great album title. And Michael said, hey, and it's a great song title too. And he immediately began to write the lyrics for the song that you're about to hear the band play. So if the band can come forward. I should also explain that usually you don't hear rockin' songs at memorials and funerals. But hey, this is the memorial and life celebration of Michael Leon Gossett, and he most definitely was a rocker. He never stopped rocking till the last day, and so they're gonna play this rockin' song.